It is a rare disorder that stops the growth process in its tracks, keeping those who have it tiny into adulthood. It is not the kind of dwarfism, as it's called, that we're familiar with. This is different. It is more rare. It is more of a strain on the body, and one that has the doctors simply stumped. ABC News' Bob Brown is here this morning. He's going to take us inside that world. Bob.
Diane, scientists are just now beginning to compile some valuable information about this condition, which is known as Primordial Dwarfism. It affects a limited number of people, and until the last few years, parents have had very little idea about the issues they'll face raising a child who is a primordial dwarf and who from the beginning attracts a great deal of attention from others. Everything about 3.5-year-old Kennedy Jordan Bromley is tiny. Among other kids her age, no matter how she struggles to reach new heights, she will always be miniature. Kennedy weighs about the same as a month-old infant, 10 pounds. Her younger brother Ty, who is just 18 months, already towers over her and weighs 3 times as much.
Brush your teeth.
Even her voice is tiny. Her larynx is the size of a fingertip, making it difficult to hear the few words she speaks.
Doggone.
Kennedy is a primordial dwarf with a skeletal disorder so rare, estimates are that only 125 others are like her in the U.S. and Canada, according to Dr. Charles Scott.
They are the smallest children in the world, and it is a big mystery as to why they are so small. We just don't know.
Kennedy weighed only 2.5 pounds the day she was born by emergency C-section, a tiny handful. The first child of Court and Brianne Bromley.
I just remember thinking, I just want to hear her cry. I just got to hear her cry. If she cries, then she's alive. And then we just heard this tiny, tiny little meow.
I have never seen something so incredible, so perfectly formed.
She just was miniature.
Her hand was as big around as a quarter, her foot just over an inch long. Doctors who had never seen a child as small as Kennedy warned the prognosis was not good. The bones of primordial dwarves are very thin, putting them at high risk for breaks. There's also the threat of scoliosis, a curvature of the spine, and heart issues. But perhaps the greatest threat, one that must be watched her entire life, is the risk of an aneurysm, a bulge in a blood vessel that can suddenly burst and kill.
Yeah, we had to rebuild that. Yeah, we had to rebuild it.
It's the same risk that 25-year-old Kristen Riley lives with. Kristen reached her full height of 3.5 feet during puberty. That's about as tall as primordial dwarves will grow. She's lived through many of the challenges Kennedy will face. The first recognition that she is different, that she will always be the smallest in the class. And there's the challenge of finding clothes and shoes.
I could totally see you wearing something like this, Kristen.
Yeah, that's Kristen.
Kristen wears a children's size 4 or 5.
The jacket is a 4. You see, that's a perfect fit.
That's what the average preschooler wears. She's delighted that kids are dressing in a more sophisticated way when they're tiny.
Look at this.
She's worked hard to be comfortable with who she is.
Some people say, well, don't you wish you could change your appearance? I'm like, I don't really think so, because if I did that, who would I be?
The word primordial, by the way, simply refers to the earliest stages of development, and that's when the delay in growth begins. It's also the source of the mystery. One thing doctors do know is that there is a genetic component to at least one form of this condition. Both parents must carry the gene that causes it, but tests are so complicated that they're not common simply because the condition itself is so rare. One of the organizations that's been of tremendous help to families is the Little People of America, where families can meet and exchange information. And there are so many issues. What kinds of nutrition is right? The throats are so small that they need to know how to feed them, what to feed them, how often to feed them as these children grow older, what their life expectancy may be. Kristen is 25 now. She's working to achieve her own independence, and she's kind of a role model for the parents of Kennedy, Brianna and Courtney.
Spirit. Oh my goodness, you love her immediately. And you were saying there are 200 kinds of dwarfism.
There were 200 kinds of dwarfism. This primordial dwarfism has 6 different syndromes, and because it's so rare, it's been very difficult for doctors to hone in on what any causes are because they have so few cases to study.